session now. So first and foremost, I would like to thank all of you for joining in today. The topic of today's session is future of digital marketing brand communities. To lead this session, we have with us Abhishek Rai, who's a founder of Shack, and they specialize actually into leveraging business communities for businesses, brand communities for businesses. Sorry. In today's session, we'll talk about the evaluation of web from web 1.0 to web.social to web 3.0. We'll also look into various pain points in digital marketing and how brands are addressing those pain points. Shack has actually created a Shack metrics, which is a framework to decode the marketing strategy. So we'll actually talk about the Shack metrics today as well. We'll also look into how to evaluate brand community's quotient of brands' digital presence and how to really improve it. So that's the session all about. Without taking any further time, I'll now hand over the session to Abhishek. Just wanted to set the logistics for those of you joining us for the first time. This session will go on for 1 hour duration. All of you are by default muted. So if you have any question, please type it down in the question panel. We'll have over the presentation for about 30-35 minutes, and then we will have an open Q&A. We are recording this session as well, so you would be receiving the recording of the session as well. So don't worry if you miss anything. That's it from my side. Abhishek, you can start the session now.
Thank you so much, Kapil. Hi, everyone. As Kapil has already told you that I'm founder of Shack. So let me straight away dive into the futures of digital marketing. Well, as I assume that most of us have been participating in building the digital ecosystem for brands or individuals or particular organization. So it's pretty much a demanding activity anyway. But we all are always, inundated with this very question, and we have to do crystal gazing that what is going to be the future of digital marketing? What are the 3 or 4 broad trends which outline every 5 years? Is it social? Is it mobile? Is it data? Is it machines? Or is it pure intuition or magic which is going to be there? And this is something which keeps us awake, which keeps us asking these questions. Is it big data? I mean, there's so much of data around, and most of the new startups which are coming around and the ones which are there, they help you and they tell you that if you look at all the data which you get from all the various platforms, that's where the answer lies and that's where the equations are to make your brands successful on the digital platforms. Artificial intelligence, it's like machine doing everything and you have to do nothing. So that's something which is going to be very bad for all of us if machines start taking the digital marketing. That's something which I'm not really interested in. And the third thing is what the departed CEO of Apple said, that when he came to India, this is what he found, that most of us here have intuition, like very strong intuitions of doing something. Is that going to solve the problem of digital marketing in the future? Because that's something which really, these are the things like which I keep asking to myself. Well, the answer lies in none of the above. The answer lies in the very inception of the web as we see it right now. So why don't we go back and see how the web has evolved over a period of years? And if you look, and it's not the history of the web about your browser, you don't have to worry about that. Just go and look at how has the web evolved. And we all have been worried at one point of time, like when people have gone ahead and seen our history. So here is the history of the web, and most of us are pretty much aware. Why I've chosen 1983? Because it points out 2 most important things which would define the direction of the digital marketing in the future. So there are 2 things that happened. One thing which got invented was the email as we use it today. I mean, obviously it has evolved a lot over a period of time after Gmail happened and so on and so forth. But it got invented in 83. At the same time, an iconic brand formed its first brand community. Not that the communities were not there, but a very conscious decision to make brand community as a business strategy and not just as a marketing strategy. It happened at the same time. Then happened the browser revolution. Mark Andreessen invented Mosaic, which became Netscape Navigator. Then Internet Explorer happened, and then the web started to explode They were very, they were, that was the era of GeoCities. That was the era when Yahoo was the king. They got in the banner ads. We move on to the e-commerce era. Still the banner ads rule the roost. Yahoo is one of the biggest internet giants. And then Google came from nowhere and taught us how to search the information on the web. They came up with the text ads, and that changed the course of the history, as we all know. And Google became the verb rather. And that got us the second era. And this is the second era, which is Web 2.0. We have blogs here, so anyone can publish anything and they can have their own audience, own small community. And then the third era which kicks in is when the social happens, when the mobile happens. So that's pretty much how we can define the entire evolution of web. So this evolution is nothing else but also the evolution of the digital marketing. So there are two things which broadly define the digital marketing because of this evolution. One is serve more and more ads in various formats. Skyscrapers, small ads, big ads, video ads. They used to be Google gadgets, it stopped being rich media ads, and so on and so forth. And grab more and more eyeballs. So the entire success of a campaign or digital marketing rather hinged on two things. How many ads, how many number of ads you could serve, and how many number of people would see it. The bigger the better. The larger the better. But as we all know, that over the period of time, having these campaigns and this kind of approach has caused us quite a bit of a problem. This is what a typical digital marketer agenda looks like. Let's run these many ads. Let's do campaigns, So the entire digital marketing, the concept of digital marketing revolves around these campaigns. Then the contest. So that's the only way you can get people to come to your pages, visit your website, participate, use their applications, and then there is a spike and then they die down, And then yes, the number thumping is which is something which started around 2008, 9, and now the thumb. So we have 1 million fans, we have 1 million followers, we have 1 million visits. That's still going on. What it gives us in the process is not the kind of people we want to talk with, but I call that phenomena rented audience. So these audience will be there when you rent them, and you throw money at them, and you throw money at advertising, and you lure them and say, okay, this is what you will get when you come here and win a prize. And then they leave as soon as the whole activity gets over. So you will see these spikes most of the time around an activity or a campaign, and then it just fizzles out. And these poor cats, lol cats on the internet have been thinking, what have we done wrong that we don't get to participate in all this action? Well, there's a mess. There's scattered presence. So most of the brands today are on Facebook. Tomorrow they might go on to the third platform. I remember doing a social media activity for KKR in 2008, 2008-9, in the first IPL on Orkut. And I'm not very proud of that, but I did that because then that used to be the biggest platform. When you have such approach, what eventually happens, it's all about adding more people. Headcount is the only measure. All that valuable data which is around the people, how they behave, what they like, what they don't like, how they love other brands, and what it just goes down the drain. Nobody cares about that data. It's all about the numbers. So this is a typical picture of a brand's digital ecosystem. If you look at what you see is an online brand community, if it's there, it's all about the numbers of 1 million followers, impressions, no insights. And the digital marketing as it is today, it has evolved from the traditional marketing. That's why you call it a campaign, you have advertisements. So when they set out to use digital marketing, the initial aim was as simple as growing the affinity for the brand, positioning the brand, which is different from the competitors, building loyal fans, being advocacy, creating that brand advocates. Now, most of the brands, big brands, have stagnated there. They do not know what to do next with these numbers which they have. So if I sum up the entire digital marketing which has evolved from the era of Web 1.0 when the browser kicked in to what we have today, so we have most of the brands have scattered presence. there's one success and there's second success, and it's not about posting how many times during the day and how many fans you have. The audience is not relevant. Either it's rented or unwanted. So we are managing a couple of brands right now, and the biggest grouse which most of them have, I've run these ads and they've come to my platform, but I do not know what to do with them right now. Low engagement or lack of meaningful engagement is the third thing which they all face right now. Again, around the prices and the contests. See, let's take a couple of examples. So one example which comes to my mind is about the premium car brands which we have in India. I won't take names, but you all know the premium car brands, like 3 or 4 of them. So when we started building on this framework, so nearly 2 years ago, we started researching most of the brands which were doing good, big, and doing better. So when we started looking at these premium car brands, they all looked similar to each other. They were like copycats of each other. They had the same campaign, same presence. If you just removed their logos, they all looked same. Nothing changed. And we evaluated them on a lot of parameters, and we kept evaluating them on a day-to-day basis for nearly 3 months. And then we figured out that those numbers, they just go up and down a bit. They don't change. They don't change at all. We stopped doing it. And when we visited them all over again after 2 years, interestingly, only the numbers have gone up a bit, but nothing has changed. So this is what is one of the bane of the digital marketing as it is right now, the way it is happening right now. So let me ask again, since I told you these were the 3 options and this is what is digital marketing, this is how it has evolved, what is the solution? What is the future of digital marketing? There is no magic pill, there is no radically different approach which we need to have. It's all about changing the way we are doing things right now. It's the opposite of what we are doing right now. We have created very unhealthy digital ecosystems. So the opposite of an unhealthy digital ecosystem is a healthy digital ecosystem. You just do things right and things will be taken care of. So if you remember, I had mentioned that there was a brand which started a community in '83, and the same brand started using Web 2.0 and the rest of the web technologies around 2001. And today they are one of the forefront. So Harvard Business Review, they carried out a study about 5 brands, and they figured out, and they also decoded that these are the things which are making a brand healthy when they use digital in a particular way. And also they don't just use digital, it also becomes part of the business strategy. So a healthy digital ecosystem is a group of engaged audience in constant touch with the brand and each other. So I repeat, engaged audience, constant touch with the brand and each other. So it's just not about the brand, but they also have to be in touch with each other. And that forms an online brand community. Most of us are consciously or unconsciously doing this. So the future of digital marketing is about, as we see it, is about building brand communities, building online communities around the brand, and then constantly organizing, managing them, and growing them. It cannot be a one-off activity once in 3 months or once in 6 months around a campaign or around a launch. So the brand which I've been mentioning till now, the iconic motorcycle brand, is Harley Davidson. It formed the first owner groups. It's called HOG in '83. They kept building on it. Today they have some, and they are world's largest brand community, more than 1 million real members, owners of this brand, owners of the motorcycles. They have a dedicated portal to it. People go there, they meet there. So this is one of the finest examples of a brand community. And that inspired a whole lot of people to go out and start building brand communities. Another big example is Cliff Bar. Cliff Bar is a company which manufactures, it's an independent company which manufactures energy bar in the US. In the entire history of their existence, they have not spent a dime on advertising. They have never sponsored an athlete since its energy bar. And they have taken up the big daddies of the same domain, who are Nestle and Kraft. And they are the leaders in that segment. It's a small company with some 700 people, but they have been using web like no other company, at least their competitors. They value environment, they value music, they value athleticism. And what you see on your screen right now is a screenshot of Meet the Moment. It was a campaign which ran over nearly 6 months. It was about capturing the moment that changed your life, and the entire community got together. They exchanged their moments, and they met also. They had cycling trips and so on and so forth. So these are the examples from the US. We are proud to be part of such group of people who are building brand communities. We were inspired by these people. One another great example is Pepsi Refresh, which most of us are aware of. So in the very beginning, when I started work in 2007, I said that I will not be doing the linear social media activity. Not that it was not a good thing or a bad thing. I just was more interested in building brand communities. We got the opportunity with Quaker, with Yahoo India, and so on and so forth. And this is something which we did. This was the last big project which we did. It was about Good Day. And Good Day wanted to build a community around travel. And Ford Fiesta has been a pioneer, other than an off late in the second half of the last decade, and they have done some amazing work. So they started Ford Fiesta movement in 2009. So it's going to be the fourth season of that. What you see here is they borrowed that concept for the Indian campaign, and they called it urban discovery. It was one of the finest examples of the campaigns, how they should be carried out, and they carried out quite well here. So this is another good example. And Ford has been constantly trying to build a community around the brand in India. So that's probably a couple of few brands which are actually trying to do that. So you see, we all have this notion that the brand is wrong, like most of the car brands or the premium car brands I said, that they are there on the digital, people will come and start liking it. What happens is it does not happen like that. One, you don't get the right kind of people, which I just mentioned before. But if you consciously build a community around a brand, and it grows gradually, slowly, wherever the next platform might not be Facebook, whatever it is, if it is Google Plus or Google Minus or whatever it is, this community will take the brand there. The brand does not have to worry about where to go next and form the community. The community is already doing that with you. So when we were building these brand communities and we were constantly researching, so over the past 5-7 years, in fact 6 years, we have been constantly researching these brand communities, the concept of these brand communities, and we have been building. So we have built nearly 7 of them, and we're currently managing 2 of them at this point of time. So we have been able to decode a framework. It's nothing else but a step-by-step process of how to build a brand community. Most of you do it consciously or unconsciously. The first step to build a brand community is to plan how to build this, which is, so we figured out there are 5 pillars to a brand community. It starts with knowing the brand in as much detail as possible. Then it goes to knowing your people as much as possible. It's about knowing their profile, their behavior, what they like, what they don't like, what are their activities, interests, opinions, what are the other brands they are interested in, what are the kind of conversation they indulge in, what is the kind of media consumption pattern they have, and so on and so forth. And one thing which is really important is, if a brand is particularly interested in one kind of talk and its target segment is interested in something else, they would never get together and form this community. So it's very important to figure out what are the common interest areas, and then the content evolves from there. And as we all know, the hard currency of the net, of the web, is content. If you remove content from the web, it's nothing else. Yes, and the last 2 things which matter is platform and engagement. And one of the most seminal books about building online communities and using digital for marketing has been Groundswell, and that's where they tell that they have evolved a process which they start knowing about your people, define your objectives very clearly, then think of a strategy, and the last thing which comes is the technology, which is choosing the platforms and how you want to engage people. A typical structure of a brand community is something which looks like this. In the middle is the theme around which the entire community revolves around, the larger identity, which they all identify with. It's like having the same connection with your friend. If you are friends with someone, you're passionate about something very common, so that's how you get together. And then on the left is concept, which is you build either a website or a blog or an application or a small ELGG platform where everyone can get together, so that becomes a de facto go-to platform for all of us. Then there is some presence on where the crowd is today. So today it's social media, then now mobile is creeping in. Who knows what will be the next today? But you have to be present there to keep telling that this is what we are. Let's get together onto the platform where we have. Now, no brand community is successful unless you have some face-to-face interaction. So you need some sort of a brand collective. Harley Davidson, that gets people. So after Harley Davidson has come to India, they go for a bikers week to Goa every year, and they invite all the bikers together who get together, have many. Royal Enfield does something like this, which is called Rider Mania. And the last thing which is important in managing a brand community is the consumer insights, which is if you're constantly evaluating your actions on the basis of this, which is if you are moving towards the direction of achieving your objectives of the brand using the digital, you have to constantly evaluate that. So for example, I've just cited a few slides from what we carried out. So we started with, when we were doing something for Goodyear, we started with knowing the brand in detail in every possible way. What was the branding? What was the brand personality? What was the messaging? What they stood for? What are their competitors? What they like? What if Goodyear India was a human being? How would it react, behave? Then we went about knowing their people. Where are they from? What is their profession? How do they plan? What are the vehicles they have? What is the budget they have? Then we went about charting what are the activities they indulge in on the web, on the digital. And based on all these things, we came up with some trends and patterns and segmentation, which gave us the fair idea that these guys are fairly interested in traveling on weekends or traveling for extended period of time or taking just impulsive traveling decisions. And they went about doing this. And that's how we came to this conclusion that, you know what, instead of talking about the destinations, let's talk about the stories about these travels, which might be which will change with every traveling, even if the destination remains the same. So we ultimately came to this idea that, you know, let's make a platform where we can discuss road trips and the stories around road trips. And this is what we ended up having. So we had a website. The common idea was road trip. We had a website had a blog because most of the travelers, they love to record their travelogues. It had a photo story section. It had a podcast section. It also had an application that people can find if they wanted to go somewhere. And it also had a web comic section. And then obviously there was a presence around social media and mobile. And brand collective in the form of you get together, you watch a movie, you meet travelers, you discuss the next plan. And then we constantly evaluated them on various parameters. It was just not linear. It was just not about Facebook or one particular website, or one particular campaign, but it involved all of them together if they're helping me to move in the right direction. So one good thing about this platform was, this whole idea was, we developed this brand community and this concept was taken, and probably it's the first example here that from digital, we can move to the main line with the same concept, not the other way around. So building at times is easy because you just get people together, get some idea, build it. But the real deal is to keep managing this platform day after day, week after week, month after week. And when you are managing this platform or these platforms or these very various things or these many content units and these many people, you have to constantly be aware whether you're getting the right people. Are these right people coming around the identity which we formed or came up with? Are the platforms used in the rightful way? If everyone is using Google Plus, why are we using, say, Facebook or other way around? Are the conversations which are being built over there are the right conversations or not? So I remember if you go to a premium car brand Facebook page, the kind of conversation which goes on there at times is in Hindi, at times that tum meri kab hogi, tum mere sapno ki rani ho. And these cars they sell for like 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs. And I'm pretty sure brands don't want such conversations there. And the last thing is, it's the last thing but not the least thing, is the action. Now, action cannot just be relegated to a click or to a like or a share. What is the impact which this campaign is creating on the brand is the most important thing. Is it actually increasing definitely? If it's increasing definitely, how do we know that? If it's about perception, has it changed the perception? How do we know that? So that is an action which we want from any campaign or from any digital presence. And you constantly evaluate this. So for evaluating these 5 pillars, how will you evaluate them? Because there's no fixed structure, there's no right way to keep doing this. So one way which you can all trace, and this is something which is a trick from the old traditional marketing or traditional marketing communication, and a lot of advertising agencies, they use it very often. And I'm a big fan of reading Kennedy, and they have popularized this concept, which is you trace a user journey. You trace the journey of a user who comes to your digital ecosystem. Where did he first see the ad? Where did he first read something or she read something? Where did she finally go to that platform? How did she join it? And did in the process did these users did they buy something? Did they say something? Did they interact with someone? And what are you doing in that ecosystem that brings that user again and again and again? So that is a real definition of a brand community. That you just don't build it, you follow the entire user journey. And when you're following the entire user journey, it's just not about the data, it's just not about the content or the branding or the graphics, it's about the overall impact of it. So the customer journey is the key. And to constantly evaluate this, you will need numbers, but you have to build a lot of context over those numbers. You have to figure out the consumer reaction and then adjust yourself according to that. And that's where the analytics will come into the picture, but not just analytics. You have to figure out if they are connecting with the brand. What is the quality of the engagement? Most of the analytics which is there in the market, they only talk about the quantitative aspects of it. No one is talking about the quality of the engagement, quality of the numbers which are there. That is pretty important. Say, for example, content. Is the quality of the content good or bad? Is a very subjective thing. But how do you define it? There are some great newspapers who use style guides. What if these brands start to use style guides? They will figure out these are the guidelines which I want to use for my content. And if the content is not going on as per these style guides, it's not good or it's not bad. Now, something like that is not there in any analytics tool. Then there is trend mapping. So trend mapping is something most of the analysts do, but then it's not an ongoing process. It's just like something you do it today and you do it after 6 months. And yes, when I talk about brand community, it's a cross-platform maze. It's just not a linear way of looking at data. You look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, you look at the website, you look at the larger interaction, then you figure out that the things are going right or not. So our frameworks, which we call Shax Matrix, tries to solve this problem by standardizing the information which is out there. We don't look at platforms as separate platforms. We look at as one thing, which is a digital ecosystem. It's like, so if I give you an example of the weight, a guy in the US would measure weight in pounds and the guy in India would measure weight with kilograms. But if both of them are talking about weight, they're essentially talking about the same thing. And if there is a movement in the weight they talk about, that movement is pretty much in different metrics, but they mean the same. So something like that needs to be brought into the digital ecosystem analytics. So if I talk about Facebook, the metrics is static, which is the number of fans today. But if I talk about the website, the metrics is fluid. People visit, people go out, people bounce. So some standardization has to be brought into the system. And then once that standardization has been brought into the system, then you identify the right information, right data about brand, about people, which matters for you to evaluate. And then you collect them regularly and you build a layer of context on the top of it. And then you're able to interpret that. As soon as you're interpreting, you go about building a list of things which are good in your digital ecosystem, a list of things which are bad in your digital ecosystem. Logically, you will start attending to things which are not good, which are bad. And that makes your deliverables. So you can come up with an ad campaign, you can come up with a content campaign, you can come up with an activity or a contest, but now you've built a context to it. You're doing it for the right set of people in the rightful way. So it should also help you come up with a strategy and build roadmaps. So this is what this framework helps you do. It constantly helps you identify the right information, collect the right information, interpret that information, and build roadmaps, and keep evaluating the impact of the decision which you have taken. For example, all the successful investors, people like Warren Buffett, they maintain a decision journey, which is all the decisions they have taken and the reasons on the basis of which they took that decision, they record it somewhere. And if the price of the share goes up and down, they go back and check the reason which they had noted down on the basis of which they took that decision. If it matches that, then they have taken the right decision. Something like that, this whole data story is just not there right now. Now, what is stopping us from building these brand communities? What is stopping us from constantly organizing and growing these brand communities and monitoring? So as I pointed out earlier, the brands have a very larger vision, a very great objective, great goals, which is to, they're very human goals. They want to become more loved. They want to have more people who love each other. They want to have people constantly talking about their brands. They don't have these goals so someone sitting on the top in Nike, they don't say that I want more likes for my brand. They say that people should like their brand. And when I talk about the digital platform, they come up with the strategy and the campaigns and the paid media ads and own media and mobile applications. And when it's time to evaluate whether a campaign has helped me increase the affinity, what you have for evaluation is not whether the affinity has grown or not. What we have for evaluation are these metrics, which do not translate into those objectives. Not that they cannot, they just don't right now, which can be. And the analytics which we have in the market, they are dime a dozen, and they're getting bigger, they're getting stronger, they can like pull data within seconds, but that's an information overload. I want less. I'm a community manager, I'm a marketer. I'm not a magician that I keep looking at the set of data throughout. So what I need is data stories. Plain numbers are not telling me the complete story. I want to know that complete user journey. Using the numbers, for sure. Say, for example, I look at the number of fans are growing. The number of fans are going up. So before they were 8,000, now they're 10,000. But if I look closely into it, I'll see that there is an attrition rate which is higher. So if the attrition rate is higher over the period of time, it will go down. The curve will come down. And the other thing is the composition of the audience is not the desired composition. Nearly 32% of them are, say, audience. Or 32% of them are contest hunters. And 8% of them are employees. So it's not going to solve a problem for me. I need the right set of audience. The data story tells a different story. The data tells you a very positive story. So we set out to solve this problem for ourselves because we had to constantly evaluate and tell these brands because we had set out to solve very specific problems. So we helped Google, Goodyear tackle the problem of the brand perception. They were a very clinical brand. They wanted to change that perception. We went about changing that perception on building platforms or social media. So we have nearly 500,000 people on Facebook and so on and so forth. That was not the agenda. The agenda was, are there enough number of people who now relate to brand differently than what they used to relate with before this whole brand community came into being? Answer was yes. And then when we went about tooling this and we went about solving this problem because using documents, using Excel sheets, using these many various analytical tools were not solving our problem. So we went about building one such for ourselves and we built it, we shipped it last year. We call it Build Your Community because that's how we see the future of the digital marketing. It helps to standardize the whole metrics maze which is out there, each platform, different format in different ways. It helps us to build a structure in a way that we understand we are able to access it. We don't have to go through like 64 different columns when we pull out a Facebook data sheet. And then it broadly divides the whole thing in three broad categories. There's audience, there's presence, and there's engagement. These are the terms which you are aware of. What it essentially does, it's divided into three broad sections. One is it helps you about grounds. There is a term which is count the number of users, but maybe I want to connect it in terms of how many of them are conversationalists, how many of them are critics, how many of them are inactives, how many of them are regular, they indulge in the conversation with me. The next section is audit, which helps you constantly evaluate all the analytics. It breaks down those analytics and then evaluate them, assess them on the basis of your own benchmarks and not the industry benchmarks. Maybe 5,000 number of 5,000 audience on Facebook or 10,000 visits on a website is good number for you. That is what you should be worried about and not if 1 million visitors are there on your Facebook or not. And then it should help you find the gaps and opportunities. So if there's an assessment, it says good, what made it good is an opportunity and what made it bad is a gap which you need to work on. It should help you list down these gaps and opportunities which should be there for you to look at every time you log into the system. You keep working a strategy, a campaign around that. And then you go evaluating that again and you see if that strategy helped you bridge that gap or not, assess that impact or not. And then you will be able to plan your campaigns better and strategy better. So I see that the future of digital marketing is in building these successful brand communities and constantly evaluating these various platforms which come under the umbrella of a digital ecosystem or the brand community and take actions on the basis of the evaluation on a regular basis. There are a few very good brands which are already doing it. I cited a few examples. We are constantly trying to do that. We are constantly trying to build tools and frameworks and ways to do it. And I'll be more than happy if any one of you is interested in knowing more about it or knowing more about the tool. I would love to be of any help to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Over to you, Kapil.
Thanks, Abhishek, for putting in the nice framework. It's actually a very good way of looking at it. And in fact, guys, it's open for questions now. There are a lot of questions already been put up. Some were, I think, are already answered, and some I'll pick up very soon. So if you have more questions, you can either raise your hand or you can type down your questions. So, one of the questions that I have is, I think the way you picturized it, like first think about the entire the whole brand dynamics, then think about the concept, and then go and choose the whole platforms or the brand platform on which you want to build the brand community. So, and earlier you also mentioned, what is important is not just interaction with the brand, but their interaction with themselves is also with other
Yes.
brand community members is also very, very critical, right? So when it comes to choosing the right platform, there's a lot of people who have questions around it. So, um, Facebook has its own way of engagement model, which is offered for brands to create community there. Twitter has its own engagement model. So, I mean, what do you normally recommend? Build your own community platforms or go with these platforms? And what are the tips and tricks and how to really decide about which platform will work for which concept and which brand dynamics?
Yeah. So if you look at the whole thing, like most of the successful brands share now, and they are also like very big in digital. When they had digital and when they did not have digital, they still had these like set of people who were crazy about these brands. So they just knew that what clicked with them. So if I give you an example of a burger chain which most of us are not aware of, it's called Denny's Burger. It's based out of US and it's a very old burger chain in the US. What they use is they use Tumblr. And they use a lot of humor when they talk about their burger. It's like someone drowning and getting the burger, or someone just trying to catch a fish, and when the wire comes out, it's burger in the bait. So what they've identified that Tumblr is the right platform for them. So for them, the community which comes around, it shares what they are saying, and they give them the suggestions. Platform is very important because you have to be present where the people are, but then the intent has to be about that the central theme, what you're wanting to do, it has to portray what the brand stands for. What if the brand is a human being? They will not just, so if you have a friend, if that friend keeps talking about the same thing again and again, you get bored after a while. So if you have interesting conversations happening, then more and more people start joining. And in the internet, and someone wise said that people come for the content and then they stay for the brand. So that is what is more important. To define that whole concept, whether people are interested in talking with you.
Okay, great. So let me take up some of the questions now. Guys, I'm
Yes,
taking up all the questions in chronological order. Manisha, she asked a question very early in the session. As an activity, she wants to know who takes care of the digital marketing and what all activities take place in digital marketing, what companies do in digital marketing space. So I think overall, the way you have defined it, in terms of various resources that an organization have, like who all needs to be get involved, where it should be outsourced, where it should not be outsourced. So if you can just create the whole resource management as per the framework you have posted, that'll be very good for all of us.
So a typical structure of a digital marketing is like there are brands, then there are agencies, and then there are individuals who carry out these activities. So when I talk about a brand, a typical structure is like that of a marketing. There's a marketing department, and the marketing department has a communications department. Usually the digital comes under the communications department these days. Or if the brand has started to realize it as a very important function, then they created a separate. A typical composition is that of a strategist who is a marketer. Below the marketer, there is a digital strategist, and below the digital strategist is an executive whom we call either social media manager or whom we call a community manager or an account manager. Now, a group of these people that decide if the number of platforms are way too much. Then they outsource this job to a digital agency. Digital agencies are primarily of two types. One, which they help you build these platforms, a website, application, so on and so forth. And then there are these new age digital agencies which have started to call themselves social media agencies, and that's what they call themselves these days. Either they are agencies which perform both the functions together as well, and then there are these freelancers who call themselves digital experts or digital agencies, social media experts. They also help these brands. So a typical structure is a brand, a department, and then there are these agencies which are scattered around the around this ecosystem who constantly, they come together and they perform this job.
So I think that really creates a picture. Manisha, I hope your question is answered. Um, okay, I'll just pick up the next question now. Guys, you can also raise your hand in case you have any question and you want to have a discussion around that. So I'll definitely give that as a preference if you want to have an open conversation. Okay. Okay, so the next question is from Amir Anish Munshi. He wants to know, if brands won't do these campaigns or contests, which you were talking earlier, what strategies would you suggest them to promote themselves? So earlier, if I have a Facebook page and you said, I mean, that's the set of stuff everybody is doing. So I think that's the time he posted this question. It, so is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll spill the beans. I mean, usually I charge a bomb when I tell this to brands. If not anything else, just start knowing your community, start knowing your users. And one of the best ways is just go to a person's profile who you think is your user, or if you think should be your user, and start noting down what they like. And Facebook is charging you because they have so many profiles and so much of information there. That's why you can target your ads there. So if you just note down their name, age, location, where they come from, what they like, what they don't like, what are the movies they have watched, what are the books they have read, where all they studied, who are their friends, what are the other pages they like. I'm just talking about Facebook right now. Just by getting this information, if you collect 5 profiles every day in your Excel sheet, over a period of year, you'll have like 5,000 such people in an Excel sheet. And that will be the best way to map your brand. That is the best way to build your content. That's the best way to plan the next campaign. And every answer comes from there. Every other tool which is out there in the market is either helping you move in that direction or just trying to, give you that information. That's the magic which I have given, and we have been doing this for nearly 7-8 years now, and we have always been like producing nice results with this.
Great. I think the whole point on customer insights and creating collective events, whatever you called it earlier, that is something that people are missing out once they are not looking into this framework. Great. So next, guys, I'm actually ignoring some of the questions which I think you are already been answered, but in case you're left with time, you can please post it again if I miss out any one of them. So another interesting question is put up by Anthony Joes. He wants to know, is there a difference for a brick and mortar versus e-commerce companies, brand communities, creation and nurturing? Will the same structure apply since the website itself is a product of an e-commerce company? So, yeah, what are your comments?
Okay. So before I got into digital, I used to teach in management colleges, and I have taught marketing there, and I have done very, very ground level marketing research, and I've done business process re-engineering. So while I was doing that, and the dynamics of building a structure around a brand, no matter it's a retail organization, or it's a commodity organization, or it's an e-commerce thing, pretty much remains the same. If you look at Amazon, or if you look at Flipkart, or if you look at any other brand, like, so Barnes and Nobles lost out not because they could not adopt e-commerce, or they could not adopt the digital, but they started copying Amazon. In the history of the branding, if you have seen any brand copying any other brand, they've not been able to survive for long. Samsung is facing the same fate these days. So yes, you yourself, who takes care of your own brand, have to figure out whether starting with just a very basic website will help me. If I am an e-commerce, So you have to position yourself. So everyone is selling the same copy or the same phone and the same shirt, same trouser. How will you tell them that you're different? So I'll give you one couple of good examples. There's this brand called it sells shaving gear called Dollar Shave Club, and there's Harry's, and they both sell. They're very, very successful. They sell the same stuff, brick and mortar thing at a very low cost. But one positions itself as a very humorous brand, and the other position itself as a thing. They bought a factory in the Germany and they import their blades from there. So both of them are building two very different stories. So you have to figure out how you position yourself in the long run.
Great. I hope, Anthony, you got your answer. Next question is actually asked by a couple of questions by Puneet Agarwal, a different dimension. He wants to know, how about small companies or startup trying to build their brand, since they can't hire big agencies? How would they build up a community? How, any idea how they should start with really does not cost too much money? And he also want to know how much really, I mean, if we really go with the framework, how much does a building a virtual community cost?
So when so we stopped working as an agency nearly a year and a half ago when we started working on this product and this framework full time. And one of the defining things which we promised ourselves, if we ever build a tool, we'll just not build it for the brands. We'll also build it for the smaller players like startups or smaller independent businesses, because they should also be using digital, and that's what we saw. Now uh, we are working with a couple of startups. So the first thing which most of the startups they do this folly, they want to, again, they're trying to copy the big brands. They want to be present on all the platforms. They want to do the same stuff. They're all running Facebook ads because it's become so much more feasible, and it does not cost as much as it used to be before. So if I were a startup and I want to start talking about what I really am, what I need to do on the digital, the first thing which I need to talk about is what I'm wanting to create, what problem I'm trying to solve, because I've already identified something which is unique in my offering in this world, which everyone else does not have, which I think I'm trying to solve a problem. Most of the startups, they end up doing the same stuff which everyone else is doing, and they don't share their stories. So the first thing which a startup needs to do, and the cost which involves in sharing such thing is nil, zilch. You don't have to do anything. Create a very basic blog and start sharing your stories. Now, if you think that the number of people who become bigger and they start becoming part of your story, then you can go on to a larger platform like Facebook, or you can create your own map, your own corporate blog. But to start with, start sharing your stories with people, and you will be amazed to find that there are so many people out there who are wanting to listen to you and talk with you and discuss with you.
Got it. So start with the story even when the product is not there.
Yes, yes.
Great. Uh, Another interesting question. So, guys, by the way, before I put up this interesting question, let me just put up this poll in front of you. So, especially for those of you joining us for the first time, take it as a commercial break also. So, if you're interested in doing a digital marketing course, you can just mention yes over here. Or if you're not interested, just mention no. Okay. If you're already participating, just mention already participating. Okay. So, simultaneously, I'm taking up the question. There's next question from Devashri. The question is, though we got to know that a brand communities play the major role for the company which is into mass market game, I want to know how brand communities can help a company which is into very niche market segment.
Okay. So, so I told you about this. I gave you this example of Cliff Bar. Out of it's a very niche market segment. They are only present in the energy bars, and energy bar is not a huge market segment like chocolates are. So again, as I told you, they went about telling everyone what they really stood for, and then they figured out who are the people who would be interested in getting in touch with them, and they figured out that, oh, is this what they want to do? So another great example is this brand called Sweet Greens, and Sweet Greens only serves you uh, organic salads which they prepare, and they source their own food from local places. It was founded by three people. They don't have more than 10 places in 10 restaurants in the US. They again tell the same thing. They tell the story why they stand, why are they different. what are they trying to solve, and then they go about choosing things such as a campaign. They do a yearly sweet festival wherein that's a music festival. They are present on Facebook, they are present on YouTube, where they post their videos about them visiting the farms, them visiting the schools and teaching kids. As everyone remembers, like, so Steve Jobs said that education is the best marketing. So if you are in the niche segment and you really know what you're really doing, why don't you go about educating people about what you are doing? Give them some takeaways from what you have learned and what you think the world should be, and how you can make that thing better over a period of time. That's how I think niche marketing should be used. I mean, digital marketing.
Great. Guys, anyone of you want to have an open discussion on anything been discussed, please raise your hand. Or if I've missed your question, also please feel free to raise your hand. Another question is asked by Lalita. She wants to know, is there any tool in the market that can help you collect the customer profiles on all these communities? Are there any good tools that you recommend for that?
So the companies like Hoover and Dun and Bradstreet were built on the profile. So yes, there are companies in the market who will give you that profile, but you'll have to give give them like millions of dollars and thousands of dollars, and they'll definitely give the profile. Indicus Analytics in India does that. They give you profiles and the information about that, but they'll charge you a bond for that. And the next best thing in the world is hard work, and there's so much of information which is open. You go out and you collect that information, but as of now, I don't know any company like giving it to you just like that, or any tool giving it to you. So they will, if there are tools, they'll charge you a good amount of money to get that kind of information.
Great. So another question asked by Vidyuta Kant. She wants to know, how was the impact on the brand measured by Seat or Ford EcoSports by creating the communities? I think she's talking about the example that you mentioned earlier.
Yes, yes. So, Vidita, with
Vidyuta, right?
the question which Vidita has asked is a good question. So what we did was, when we also we tracked Ford for nearly 2 months when they were running this campaign. So we did a pre-campaign analysis and a post-campaign analysis of their of Ford EcoSport Discovery, which is out there on our blog as well. So if I just talk about the impact, no matter what you do on digital, the first impact which you should also always be able to evaluate is are you getting the right kind of audience after the campaign or not? So suppose I have like 100 people right now and I run a campaign and I end up getting 50 more people. Now out of these 50 people, how many of them are the ones whom I would like to have my audience? Do they have the right profile? Do they have the right professional backgrounds? Do they talk the same kind of stuff which I want to talk? Are they all car enthusiasts, or are they biking enthusiasts? So the best way to go about is, if these 50 people have joined, you go about sampling them, taking them 10 samples and figuring out that out of every 50 people, if half of them are the ones who are of the right profile, then maybe I need to pump up the steam next time and maybe get more relevant people. So that's one kind of impact. Other impact is if you figure out the kind of engagement which people are having. The third impact which you can figure out, what has been the change in the perception of the people, or what is the kind of brand people perceive your brand to be. So there are various parameters which you can keep collecting the information and getting the impact. Say for example, there's this. So one of the companies, power companies, that gets a lot of flack is Reliance Industries, and they don't usually get a lot of good name, but they run a very good campaign which is around quizzing and around educating people how to save power in the suburbs of Bombay. And just that they're not able to put out this information very openly and very clearly in the front of the people, but they are doing some great job. If they would constantly tell people and they collect the information, they will be able to calculate the impact of this brand, how it is turning out to be for their brand. That is the right way to go about it.
Great. I hope you got your answer, Vidyuta. This next question from Bal Chandra. He wants to know, I think you mentioned some time back that communities will themselves be able to take them from one platform to another platform if you really manage the community well. So he wants to know, how do you manage transition of this brand community when the medium changes, say from Facebook to some other medium? Are there some guidelines, tips in this direction?
Yeah. So the first, I mean, if it's just about the platform, then the only thing which you need to tell them is move from this platform to the next platform, and usually your communities move because they do not really care about the platform. They just need a go-to place. It's like the cafe does not, the location of the cafe does not matter. What matters is where your friends are. So if you have your friends at a different location of a cafe, you will just go and meet them there. So it's the same thing with your communities. If you are taking care of them while they are there on a particular platform, even if you have to shut it down and move to the next platform, they usually do that very well. I mean, Harley Davidson has been a very great example. They started with just what they were. They were just on a website in 2001. There was no social media platform. Then now they moved on to Facebook and Google Plus, and they're as active there. And tomorrow they might move on to Snapchat, and I'm pretty sure they will be as successful there as well.
Great. Great. I think, guys, that's it. In case there is any question that is unanswered, please raise your hand. Also, Abhishek, a lot of people wants to know the way they can actually contact you directly. So, is the We Build Community Twitter handle is the best option, or is there some other option you would like to propose?
They can write. They can write to me at abhishek@shack.co.in.
Okay.
They can also so that's they can reach out to me on my email ID, or they can tweet to me at VBuild Community as well.
Great. Okay. Saurabh is saying, looks like you've skipped my question, so I'll just. Saurabh has a question. Abhishek, when we have
Yes.
customers asking for more likes and branding is in no time, how do you manage them to understand the healthy digital marketing way? I think this might be a little interesting because, as a as an agency owner, that's the kind of question most of the agency owners would be facing with. So how do you really talked about it, a healthy way of doing it, but are there some tips on the way you should really convince them to think about healthy digital marketing ways?
So first things first, all these numbers are not bad. Just because I have been saying that the problem is when you don't know what to do with these numbers is bad. So having a community of 500,000 people or 5 million people is a good thing. That's a good milestone to have. It's like trying to. So I'm a fat man, and I keep coming up with this example that losing weight should not be the only target. The other target is how you eat the right food and you do the right exercise, you take the proper rest is also equally important. Similarly, if your agency is wanting to increase the number of fans and they want more likes, then you have to figure out a way, a campaign which should be directly in touch with what the brand stands for. But if you go about coming up with the same photo upload contest every time, then over a period of time that will also flatten out. So yes, tell them that let's go about getting more numbers. Don't shun the numbers. They're a very good measure of your success, but it should be done in a way that is sustainable on a long term. As I've given the example of these agencies who have got these numbers for premium car brands, now they are just not able to do anything with these people who are there on these platforms because they are just not interested in the car. They're not interested in what the car stands for or what the brand stands for. They're just lying dead. They're very, and if there is a campaign again and then new thing to be won, they all become active, and all of a sudden, I call them contest hunters. So majority of these guys are like contest hunters. They're there for a contest and they hunt and then move. So you have to like justify your numbers. Don't run away from the numbers. They're very important. I'm all for the numbers.
Great. So I think that actually also answered the another question. But unless you want to add something to this, there's a question from Digvijay saying he wants to know, when you talk about digital marketing, Google AdWords and Hootsuite are always in the picture. My question is, are they really necessary? And if so, why?
Google AdWords is very important because it's important to inform people about what you're doing. So all the best advertising is when you inform about what you're doing, and if you're passionate about what you're doing, you also go about telling people. Hootsuite is a is a social CMS. I mean, people call it a social management platform, social management tool. It's not a social management, it's a social CMS. Like WordPress is a CMS for blogging. So yes, if you have to post across 10 different platforms and you want to time it, and yes, it's useful. But from my experience of managing big and small and early stage brands and late stage brands, there were brands which we have used everything what you just mentioned, and there were brands which we have not used, and the results have been the same. Just that you have to come up with a lot more structure in your approach. It will just help you. I mean, if it helps you, go ahead with it. If it doesn't, then the important thing is that the brand should be happy, and you should be happy with the numbers which you own for your brands.
Great. So I think we have already exceeded with 2 minutes. So I'll just take the last question from Paramveer. Uh, he wants to know, as a strategy, is it better to build a community on social media or on your own customer facing sites? What do you recommend?
Okay. So now nobody talks about internet anymore. So everyone used to talk about. So I remember getting an internet connection in '98 and jumping because of the joy, because I was on the internet. Now I don't get up in the morning and I don't. I mean, I don't pick up my phone and I'm very happy why I'm on internet. Now just a matter of time, and the social will also fade away and things will cease to be social. So uh, talking so much about social media, whether we should be on social media, it's going to be inevitable. Google is moving towards that. Facebook is a big platform. All the mobile applications which you get are intertwined with the social networks or the data which is there. So your phone directory has become social all of a sudden after web all these WhatsApp and phone-based applications. So again, try to think what is more important. Where can you have the best conversation? If you can have it on your own platform, go ahead and have it on platform. Like Seth Godin does not need a social media platform. He just has a blog. You can't even comment there, but he's having the right kind of conversations. But there are others like there's this guy called Casey Neistat. He comes up with some great videos. He calls himself a YouTube filmmaker. So every time he comes up with a new movie, he posts and on YouTube, and that's where he gets the most conversation, or maybe on Instagram. So you have to like pick and choose the one which is more useful for you. Don't worry too much about the platform or social.
Great.
Anyone
So
else?
I think that's it. So at this point, really want to thank you, Abhishek, for dealing with all the question and providing us with all the enlightenment. And I'm sure my personal understanding about the way to really strategize campaign has shifted. I'll definitely be using the Shark framework. And I'm sure that will be true about a lot of the people who participated today. So thanks a lot, and thank you everybody for joining in today.
Yes, yes.
It's been wonderful. The session is closed. You will soon get a mail with the recording of this session for your later reference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kapil. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
It's been my pleasure.
Great. Thanks. Thanks. The session is closed.